The Ukrainian authorities, meanwhile, have shut their airspace to civilian flights, citing a high risk to safety. The Ukraine State Air Traffic Services Enterprise has suspended all air traffic services hours after a conflict zone monitor warned airlines about the risk of an unintended shoot-down or cyber attack. Screen recordings of flight tracking websites show aircraft diverting around Ukraine. An El Al flight from Tel Aviv to Toronto made a sudden U-turn out of Ukraine's airspace, while a Polish Airlines flight from Warsaw to Kiev also turned back to Warsaw around the same time. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency has warned that the airspace in Russia and Belarus bordering Ukraine could also pose safety risks to airlines. The Indian Embassy in Ukraine informed Indian nationals that the scheduled special flights to Kiev were cancelled as the country's airspace has now been closed. And alternative arrangements are now being made for evacuation of Indian nationals. A special Air India flight returned from mid-air as the Ukraine airspace got shut down. And according to reports, an empty flight of Air India AI 1947 is now returning from over Iran airspace. Air India is scheduled to operate a second special flight for Ukraine to bring back its stranded Indian citizens. Ukrainians were woken up by shelling and airstrikes across the country. President Volodymyr Zelensky urged for calm and said that the Ukrainian military will fight to win against Russian aggression. Listen in.
Dear Ukrainians, this morning Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a special military operation in the Donbass. Russia carried out strikes on our military infrastructure, on our border guards. Explosions were heard in many cities of Ukraine. We introduced martial law throughout the state. A minute ago, I had a conversation with US President Joe Biden. The US is starting to gather international support. Today we need you. Each of you needs to be calm. If possible, stay at home, please. We are working, the army is working. The entire security and defense sector of Ukraine is working. I, the National Security and Defense Council, the government will be in touch. Soon I will be in touch again. Don't panic, we are strong and we are ready for everything and we will defeat everyone. Because we are Ukraine, glory to Ukraine.
International affairs expert Kadira Pethiagora joined us from Melbourne earlier. Listen in to his inputs.
Any kind of economic sanctions or deterrence in that way was not going to work, because the issue here for Russia and for President Putin in particular was about it was twofold. It was strategic and it was about national pride. And in terms of strategic, they would never allow for Ukraine to be used as a base for potential NATO missiles that could reach Moscow in a very short period of time. That would significantly weaken their defense capability. And in terms of national pride, you've seen it in his speeches, the one the other day and today, where he evokes a lot of historical and nationalistic ideas and really talks about the whole history of the region and of course, also in terms of what he sees as the Russia's humiliation after the collapse of the Soviet Union and what he calls the broken promise of NATO not expanding to the east. So I think this was a military and strategic issue, and I think Russia is willing to take the hit economically for it. It's all about a continuum. So I think, like he mentioned, red lines. So you've got missiles in a certain part, but the number of missiles that can reach Moscow and the distance of all of them, all these things are calculated when it comes to their sort of defense strategies. So I think, he drew a point here, and I think because of those sort of historical and cultural connections with Ukraine, he was going to draw Ukraine as the red line. And also, I think a lot of those other missiles in Eastern Europe were there before his time and before Russia was powerful enough to sort of retaliate. So I think Putin really sees this as a kind of a legacy move before he ends his time.
WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.